You may have seen the news last week that Ontario Premier Doug Ford said that he only wanted Ontario students at the universities and colleges in Ontario. Now, it didn't take particularly long for his PR team to realize that he made a mistake in what he said, and they issued a correction about 2 hours later. But as a thought experiment, we figured, I wonder what this would look like if we tried modeling it with Plaid Forecast. We'll now go over to Plaid Forecast to test out how we'd model this kind of a change in Ontario, if such a thing were actually real. Within Plaid Forecast, we have a known allotment scenario. We can see it was created a little over 2 weeks ago and updated yesterday and today as more information became available through the federal government. Generally speaking, what we see is that the higher number for universities will drop a little bit in 2024 and then grow a little bit and kind of stabilize. Colleges will drop more and faster and for longer. Most of this is driven by what's happening in Ontario. So how would we go about modeling such a change? The known allotment scenario focuses on what we've heard from IRCC so far and what we've heard from the provincial governments. Instead, we're going to do a what if comparison here. So we'll clone our scenario and we'll say, what if Ontario stops admitting international students? And we'll run it for 5 years. And what we'll do here when we clone a scenario is we take all the existing information from the input parameters that are already known. So for example, if we look at British Columbia, we can see that for the universities and colleges, there's a series of intakes that are flatlined as of 2023. Same story for Ontario and every other province and territory that we have listed here. What we're going to change in this case is we're going to keep 2023 the same, but we're going to change all these other numbers. Now, to turn them to zero, the fastest way to do that is with the bulk editor. So I'll hit save. And once that's saved, we'll get a notification. And then I'll turn off the bulk editor and I'll show another province just for comparison. So I'll pick Nova Scotia and we can see that it still has intakes. And the same would be true of all the other provinces and territories. Now let's run our scenario so that we can compare the differences here. We'll go back to the overview and we can see that our scenario is already running. So I'll hit refresh one more time and we can see it is already complete. As a general rule, with the model running, this tends to take between 10 and 15 seconds. So here we can see a downward trend. Let's go into more results and see if we can dig into this a little bit further. We can see here our college number going down more quickly, our university number also going down. Universities are the blue one on the top, colleges are on the bottom. So colleges will decline faster and universities will take a little bit more time. The reason for that is that there's many students currently studying in the universities and colleges, but particularly the universities, and they'll continue their studies for longer. So if we extended this out 10 years, we'd see these lines start to approach each other. So let's make a comparison here. What we could do is we could compare this to another scenario. So let's go back to our known allotments, which was the national and provincial version that was based on the changes from the federal government. Now, what we can see here is this blue line is the known allotments or the scenario based on what we think the federal government is going to do. And the orange line is the one that we just created for colleges. Same story above. So the red line is the university if everything stayed as we kind of expect it to, versus the yellow line is if they stop admitting international students, we see it really start to decline over the coming years. We can change this to by province if we so desire. And where this might get interesting is comparing what might happen in one province versus another. So we can see that in Alberta, aggregated across universities and colleges, there will be some growth over time. But what we see with Ontario is more of a decline. So we see here our known allotments on the red line. It declines a little bit into 2024 as expected. But the yellow line declines substantially from 2024 and beyond. And over time, it makes its way towards, but not actually quite towards zero. Conversely, Alberta is both the blue line and the orange line, which overlaps it. Both scenarios are exactly the same because we have the same behavior and the same inputs. So if this fictitious scenario were to come true from the yellow line, where Ontario stops admitting international, we'd see Alberta grow to a larger number of international students than what Ontario would have, somewhere between 2025 and 2026. So this gives us a few different ways that we can compare these scenarios. In closing, what we did here was we took a fictitious scenario made by a slip up of wording from one of Canada's premiers, and we said, well, what if that became reality? We put that into Plaid Forecast by cloning an existing scenario and just adjusting the pieces that we needed to adjust for our current scenario. In under 20 seconds, we were able to get our results and then compare them with the original in real time and see what the differences might be. This could help our planning process, either as a government or as an academic institution, to be able to compare scenario A, B, and C, and so on. With Plaid Forecasts, the idea is that you're going to save time by having scenarios that run quickly and easily and don't require manual reconciliation with other scenarios. You're going to reduce your risk because you're no longer as dependent on a highly skilled programmer who may leave your institution at any time. You'll benefit from having foresight a lot earlier because the barrier to running this is so much lower than it is often in institutions, and it gives you the opportunity to more effectively plan for your future. So if you're interested in learning more, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.